Hello again. Almost 60 years ago, Enoch Powell made one of the most significant political speeches in post-war Britain. He said plainly that large-scale immigration was a bad thing for the country and worked against the interests of working-class people. He asserted that the idea of multiculturalism was nonsense and that different races and cultures could not live side by side in mutual respect and tolerance. He said that we were engaged in building our own funeral pyre. Powell was enormously popular for speaking out in this way, and ordinary people adored him. It was the political class at Westminster who hated and despised him. He was sacked from Edward Heath's shadow cabinet, reviled by left-wing politicians, and called a racist. Nevertheless, he proved himself a true prophet. And it would be a rash person today who suggested that most of what Enoch Powell said in the 1960s was not spot on and that his predictions have largely come to pass. In the description to this video, I give a link to the full text of the so-called Rivers of Blood speech, and I shall quote a few sections of it, just to show how it has not only become dated, but sounds as though it could have been written by a shrewd person today, describing modern Britain. Consider this paragraph, for instance. Above all, people are disposed to mistake predicting troubles for causing troubles, and even for desiring troubles. If only, they love to think, if only people wouldn't talk about it, it probably wouldn't happen. As relevant now as it was in 1968, I fancy. Or what about this? A prediction for the situation in this country in the year 2000. Whole areas, towns and parts of towns across England will be occupied by sections of the immigrant and immigrant-descended population. And was he wrong about that? Or take this description of the white working class. They found their wives unable to obtain hospital beds in childbirth, their children unable to obtain school places, their homes and neighbourhoods changed beyond recognition, their plans and prospects for the future defeated. At work, they found that employers hesitated to apply to the immigrant worker the standards of discipline and competence required of the native-born worker. They began to hear, as time went by, more and more voices which told them that they were now the unwanted. Does anybody watching this disagree with this assessment of the situation of working-class people in parts of our largest cities? Enoch Powell ended his speech by saying, "Only resolute and urgent action will avert it even now. Whether there will be the public will to demand and obtain that action, I do not know. All I know is that to see and not to speak would be the great betrayal." The great betrayal. That is a nice turn of phrase, and it just about sums up what we have seen from our political class, both on the left and the right. We have been betrayed by those whom we voted into Parliament to lead us and protect our interests. Instead, they have conspired to destroy our nation. They are blackguards and traitors. I believe that working against the interests of their own country like that is a form of treason, and I would love to see those responsible called to account for what they have done and duly punished. I suppose that we can't really call them war crimes trials like Nuremberg, but maybe they could be peace crime trials. Politicians of all persuasions, Labour, Tory and Liberal, would all be on trial. And various academics and journalists and so on could also be called upon to recant their views. Drawing another comparison with post-war Germany, we could have a process along the lines of denazification, where people had to persuade a tribunal that they were not involved in this treachery. Those who were could lose their right to vote, perhaps even their citizenship. I wonder what viewers think of this idea.